Hi folks, this is all the fruit. I am on the island of Tenerife, the Canary Islands. And as you can see, there are palms everywhere, especially date palms. Well, mostly those are three species. The teeny tiny Phoenix senegalensis, which I cannot see around here right now, pity. But what I want to concentrate on now are the two other main species. The endemic Phoenix canariensis and the Phoenix dactylifera, which provides us with the tasty, commercially available dates. What other palms do we have here? Well, this seems like some Washingtonia here. Here we have a rare example of a date palm which is branching not in the ground but above ground. Well, let's turn back to the normal Phoenix species here. Well, I guess this little walkway here, I guess a couple decades ago when they developed this part of Puerto, they gathered all the palms which were growing around the area, maybe brought some from other places and just planted them along this nice walkway here and created a really beautiful place. So I guess they really collected everything they had around here. The palms are of different height and also a lot of them are quite old. So I don't think that they were grown in a nursery, but just collected from all over the place. Look, here on the slopes, in the areas which were spared from development, they are still wild or probably wild Phoenix canariensis. So how do you tell Phoenix canariensis and Phoenix dactylifera apart? Here on the left, we have two Phoenix canariensis. The stems are quite stocky, not so thick in that case. I guess they were not growing under perfect conditions. The leaves, there are a lot more leaves, a lot more fronds, and they are growing a lot faster than in Phoenix dactylifera. And they are kind of a greenish, yellowish color. Here on this side, we have Phoenix dactylifera. Less fronds, usually much more slender stem. The fronds are kind of usually growing a bit more up. Like, look, Phoenix dactylifera, Phoenix canariensis. Phoenix canariensis, they are sloping a lot more. The ones in Phoenix dactylifera, they have less leaflets and they're also more erect. And you cannot see that very well here because I have to film upwards. But if you look at this one, this has more the color of Phoenix dactylifera, a grayish color. My Phoenix canariensis has a more yellowish color on the leaves. Well, Phoenix dactylifera has been cultivated in Arabia and North Africa for thousands of years, while Phoenix canariensis has been eaten by the local Guanche or old Canarians on the Canary Islands. In the last couple decades, Phoenix canariensis has become very popular as an ornamental because most people think it's more beautiful than Phoenix dactylifera. And it's planted all over the world in subtropical, semi-desert and Mediterranean climates. And of course, the valuable Phoenix dactylifera has been introduced to places like California, Arizona, Australia or South Africa as a fruit tree. And so in the last decades, they have grown together and have interbred in a lot of Mediterranean and subtropical areas in the world. Sorry for the construction site here, but this is the place with the tons of different figs, so I guess I have to make the video here. Well, the thing is, while they have been interbreeding in the rest of the world en masse for just a couple decades, here they have been doing it for hundreds of years. Phoenix canariensis is endemic to the Canary Islands, has been growing here for thousands or millions of years. And Phoenix dactylifera was introduced by the Spanish, probably first from Spain. Later they stole a lot of valuable trees from Morocco. So those two species have been interbreeding here not for decades but for centuries. Oh my god. Well, sorry again for the construction site. So look for example at this tree here. It has quite intermediate features. quite a thick and stocky trunk, more thick than a more typical Phoenix dactylifera here. However, the leaves are quite yellowish, but they are growing quite upright. I mean, it could also be that it's easier to prune the short trees, so they pruned it more often and pruned away the hanging leaves. So this could be misleading, but they have a lot of leaflets like canariensis. They have teeny tiny fruit. Nobody would introduce anything like that as a fruit tree. The fruit are far too small to be of any great value. And let's taste them. Not too bad. Not as tart as a typical canariensis. So this is one tree with intermediate features, most probably a hybrid. Let's continue. Here we have a similar tree with intermediate features. And here again, from afar, this medium-sized tree here looks like a typical Phoenix dactylifera. Quite slender stem. The fronds are growing more upright. They are more grayish than yellowish, less leaflets. But then when you look at the fruit, they are teeny tiny. Well, let's try those fruit. Actually, they are still bigger than typical Phoenix canariensis fruit, but smaller than Phoenix dactylifera cultivars. They don't look too fresh anymore. Okay, this was not good anymore. Let's try and get a couple more. Well, they all don't look so perfect anymore, but they are bigger than typical canariensis fruit. A lot of flesh and a nice taste. I mean, this could have been originally a simple feral dactylifera, but with the native canariensis population surviving on those steep rocks there, the chance that it's actually a hybrid is quite high. Well, what about this here? Same thing. The tree looks more or less like dactylifera, but teeny tiny fruit. Here again, slender tree, but the fronds also look like dactylifera, but really tiny fruit. However, the shape of this fruit is quite plump and thick, which means that probably the layer of sweet and edible pulp will be much thicker than in the wild canariensis. Here there are some fruit which were completely eaten, but look at the seeds to fruit ratio. Remember once more, I'm pretty sure that those trees of different sizes were just collected from all over the area when the area was developed, that they didn't want to kill the trees, so they planted them here. Here, look again, size-wise, this is more or less like canariensis, but the shape, there is a lot of pulp in here. Of course, it's tart in this unripe fruit, but I think you get the general message. Here is one where I could be lucky. No, completely moldy inside. Sorry for spitting. So folks, of course I'm not sure how many dactylifera and canariensis genes each one of those trees have. But since I had the opportunity to film a lot of them here, lined up in 2 neat rows, and to compare a lot of shapes and sizes and tastes, I hope I helped you with the identification of dactylifera and canariensis, or probably I confused you beyond any help. But still, stay tuned for a lot more fruit videos from the beautiful island of Tenerife. And don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe.